Planning a trip to London? Get ready for an exciting time. But before you jump on that plane, let us help guide you through a recommended 1 or 2 day walking tour. Day 1 of a 2-day or 3-day long weekend tour. London is a very large city with so many things to see and do. If this is your first trip to London, this is our recommended day 1 of a 2 or 3 day walking tour, something we did over a long weekend. If you're trying to do as much as possible with the major highlights, London breaks down into 2 main areas: Westminster area, Big Ben, Westminster Abbey, Trafalgar Square, and Buckingham Palace, and Central London, with the Tower of London, Tower Bridge, St. Paul's Cathedral, and the Globe Theatre. A few tips to start. If you're in London for a short term, here are our recommendations on a hotel location. 1. Your time is limited. Pay a little extra for a hotel centrally located to what you want to see. And 2, since time is limited, also find a hotel close to an underground or tube station. There are other videos that will give you all the details of using the tube, but a few basic tips are: no need to buy cards in advance, use either a credit card or your phone to pay, but be sure to use the same payment method when leaving the station so you'll be charged the proper amount. And there's also a daily maximum fare, so rides after that point are free. This DIY walking tour will get you all the main highlights of the Westminster area of London: Big Ben, Westminster Abbey, Trafalgar Square, and Buckingham Palace. This loop is roughly 3.5 miles and a total of about 80 minutes walking. This distance can be reduced by walking on only one bank of the Thames, and you could certainly take a cab or Uber to see the palace. Doing both would reduce the day 1 total to 1.6 miles and 40 minutes of walking time. Keep in mind that although you could do all of this in one walk, this is a full day itinerary, so pace yourself. Crossing the Thames via the Golden Jubilee Bridge, you'll find yourself on the opposite bank of the Thames. The Queen's Walk, Jubilee Gardens, and London Eye are on this side. The London Eye is an iconic site, if not somewhat controversial. The ride takes about 30 minutes plus however long you may need to wait in the queue. Due to the time constraints and expensive tickets, we'd instead recommend a different view of London from the sky, Sky Garden. And we'll talk more about that on our next video for your second day in London. This side of the Thames is definitely a touristy type area, but does provide some wonderful and iconic views. You'll walk back across the Thames via Westminster Bridge and be looking directly at Big Ben. Well, not really Big Ben, since that's the nickname of the bell. This is actually the Great Clock of Westminster and Elizabeth Tower, but everyone knows it as Big Ben. This is the north end of the Palace of Westminster, which is the Houses of Parliament. And walking across the Westminster Bridge gives awesome views of the Palace of Westminster. Our next stop was at Westminster Abbey. We had time tickets to enter between 1 and 1:30. Tip: many of the prime attractions such as Westminster Abbey, Churchill War Rooms, St. Paul's Cathedral, and Tower of London offer tickets online. Those tickets have timed entries and are a great way to ensure you get the tour and entry you want, as well as skipping the line at some locations. The individual attraction websites will typically display how many tickets are still available for that specific day and entry time, so you can keep an eye on availability. I highly recommend booking these tickets in advance. Some people we met over there were going to join us on a tour of Westminster Abbey and just buy their tickets the day of, only to find out that there were no more tickets available, and that was on a weekday. In the description below, there will be links directly to the ticketing pages of the locations we recommend booking in advance. Note that these are not affiliate links, we're just including this as a convenience to you. Since our flight arrived early and we were ahead of schedule, we chose to walk to Buckingham Palace. I'm sure you could certainly take a cab or Uber and save your steps, but it was a gorgeous day and it's a beautiful walk along the trees of St. James Park. On your left, you'll pass the Royal Military Chapel, or Guards Chapel, as well as the Guards Museum. Along the way, you'll also pass the Wellington Barracks on your left. This is a great place to watch the Royal Guards and get a good view without the massive crowds at the palace. At 10 a.m., you will see the inspection of the guards, and the band will be playing, ready to march over to Buckingham Palace for the 10:45 changing of the guard. This was the palace an hour before the changing of the guards, and you can see it was quite crowded. Get there early and expect large crowds. After walking back from the palace, we walked up Whitehall to find some lunch before our tour. We ended up at the Clarence, which offered great service, good food, and prices were reasonable for the location. Their fish and chips platter was definitely oversized, but I still managed to eat the entire meal. Westminster Abbey. This is one of 2 very well-known churches in London, the other being St. Paul's Cathedral. St. Paul's will be on our day 2 itinerary. We had reserved tickets in advance. This is very important here, as the day of our visit, no additional tickets were available. We had a 1 p.m. entry time and moved right in without any wait. Westminster Abbey is in the Gothic architecture style and has been the locations of royal family coronations since 1066. The coronation chair also remains in Westminster Abbey. You may recognize it from the most recent coronation of King Charles. There have been 16 royal weddings here, and it's also the burial site for 18 monarchs as well as more than 3,300 people. Many of those are prominent from British history and include writers, scientists, actors, musicians, and military leaders, several of which you may actually be walking over and may not know it unless you look down. There is one location you cannot walk on top of, and that is the tomb of the unknown soldier. This grave contains the body of an unknown British soldier from the First World War. This is one of those locations where you can say the pictures do not do it justice. The beauty is overwhelming. The Gothic architecture, stained glass windows, history, age, and just the raw beauty is truly inspiring. We spent about 90 minutes here. We definitely took our time and didn't rush, and we saw everything. But we didn't read every sign either. You might be able to go through quickly in about an hour, but you could certainly spend more time as well. We even relaxed for about 15 minutes near the cloisters, inside on stone benches in the shade. Wonderful. Churchill War Rooms. This is another location you can and should book your tickets in advance. When we were here on a weekday, there were tickets available, but if you're on a tight schedule and want to ensure you gain entry, definitely buy your tickets in advance. Both the Churchill Museum as well as the Cabinet War Rooms are at this location. It is an impressive underground bunker that housed the British Government Command Center throughout World War II. It is somewhat claustrophobic and dark, but not to the point that would probably bother someone. Our visit just absolutely cannot compare to what it may have been like working and living here. To give you a bit of the flavor, there are speakers and you'll hear sounds at times as if the Blitz is going on right above you. It is truly amazing and remarkable that the British ran their war operations from this location. 10 Downing Street. After departing the Churchill War Rooms, our next stop will be Trafalgar Square. We recommend walking along Parliament Street, where you'll see plenty of historic buildings as well as statues. And you'll pass 10 Downing Street, the official residence and office of the Prime Minister. You'll immediately note the high security here and that it really doesn't look like what you might see in the movies. Royal Horseguards. After 10 Downing Street, you'll pass the Royal Horseguards. This is another great photo op, but be careful. If you do get close, the horses can bite. Directly behind these Horse Guards is the Cavalry Museum, as well as a parade ground for the Horse Guards Parade. This is our recommended option rather than the very crowded changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, and this would be an optional event on day 3 of our itinerary. Trafalgar Square. From the Churchill War Rooms, make your way to Trafalgar Square. We were in London for the Major League Baseball takeover, so everything in Trafalgar Square was MLB related. Trafalgar Square is a must-see. This ends day 1 of our walking tour. From start to finish, this was a 7-hour day. Full, but we felt we didn't overdo it. For us, it was around dinner time, so we wanted to enjoy a nice meal before turning in early. Day 2 is an early wake-up with more fun in store. This walking loop works well if you have a centrally located hotel in the Westminster area or if you use the tube to get into the Westminster area for these attractions. Be sure to check out our Day 2 itinerary of the Central London area, including Tower of London, Tower Bridge, St. Paul's Cathedral, and the Globe Theatre. Be sure to comment, like, and please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. See you soon.